You gotta get up. Body me wake up and make a move. Oh. Cause the world will never see you until you do. They don't really care, see they do you. Oh. So make you show them, baby. Oh yeah, show them the real you. Oh yeah, show them what you get. No, don't let them say what you not why you strong. Oh. You can't bring no. You want more than 1,000 reasons why. You don't need to perfect, baby. Cause nobody perfect, darling. No, there's nobody in the world where be like you.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sickle Cell Show with yours sincerely, Toyin Adeshola. And this is a production of Sickle Cell Advocacy and Management Initiative, SAMI, which is supported by the Public Affairs section of the U.S. Consulate. And over the past month, as a way of creating awareness in Sickle Cell Awareness Month, being September, we've been talking about Finding Your Voice series. And today we'll have in the last of the edition of the Finding Your Voice series. And we decided to go in a different way. And I'm sure some of you have seen the title of the flyer, Run Wild, Break Free. And we're going to be looking at the different ways we can assess stigmatization, especially in Africa and in Nigeria in particular. And before I bring on my guest, who seems to be having a technical problem, I'll just add some comments as we go along. First of all, we should, if you have comments and questions you want to talk to us about, please put in the comment box. We'll be glad to take them. And if you like to come online for us to see your beautiful face, you can also tell me. I'll send you a link to be able to talk about this issue about stigmatization, breaking barriers in stigmatization. But before then, let me introduce to you my guests. Hello, Femi, how are you?
Hello, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. Nice to have you on this platform. So,
Thank you, ma'am.
Femi, she's called Femi Ajayi, is a Sickle Cell Warrior, and she's the founder and president of Gail Sickle Initiative, a non-profit organization that fights against the stigmatization of people living with sickle cell disorder. And I read something interesting. She said she has a master's degree in textile technology and is currently researching on protective clothing for people with sickle cell disorder for her PhD in University of South Africa. You know, when I read that, I was like, protective clothing, I never actually thought about that. That was an interesting topic. Whatever made you even think of something like that? Was it an experience that you had that you felt, wow, then maybe we need more protective clothing, or what?
Yes, the weather for people living with sickle cell disorder, one thing to react to is the cold, when it's cold. So some of us work when it's very, and we need something to make us continue during the time. So I was this weather to produce warm, and so I decided to do research on this and see what I can come up with. That's the thing.
Okay, unfortunately I didn't hear all of it because you seem to be breaking up, but no worries, we go straight to our discussion, run wild, break free. And basically we're talking about breaking barriers in stigmatization. Stigmatization is something that has existed from time immemorial, and I've realized that whether we like it, it might continue to exist. And it's not just people with sickle cell. There's stigmatization in religion. There's stigmatization in behavior, whether mental health. there's so many issues surrounding stigmatization that it can be challenging, but it's something that we have to continually persist to change people's perception. Um, and stigma has been described as a negative or attitude to somebody or with as regards their religion, their mental health, their societal values,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So you definitely have a lot of that. Even like up to, and I think about 5 months ago, we were facing issues about stigma around rape, where people blame the person who was being raped as against the person who even did the rape. And I was just, yes, I was just reading something in on BBC about somebody who was gang raped in Pakistan, and the head of the police force was saying, as a mother with children, what was she doing in that neighborhood? She should have taken the longer route. And her car broke down, and then she was gang raped. So it shows the perception of
Yes.
people with issues. And one of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
major reasons stigma exists is because of ignorance and also
Lack
preconceived
of
ideas
knowledge.
about certain issues. Yeah. So for you growing up, did you ever face any issues surrounding, especially when you are a child, or did you notice any issues surrounding stigma?
um, I've been handling stigma since I was young. The first thing
Mm,
is I'm a twin. So I grew up with the consciousness that I'm different. And we
mm,
had, while we were growing up, we had friends. But because you know what adolescent and puberty does to winning warriors, you have the tendency to grow slower than your colleagues.
yeah,
So
yeah.
anytime we had something to talk about, the boys, they oh, he just asked me out, look at me, my body. So anytime we were discussing that, our friends will just tell me, please leave, you're still a small girl, you don't know anything about that. And everybody
Mm,
will go, my team will go, I'll be left alone, and they'll be like, oh, this one, you're just a small sick girl, just please, we don't want you around us. So I've been handling stigma from since I was a kid.
yeah, yeah. I can imagine. And as you were growing up, did you find you had to keep defending yourself, or you just brushed it as aside, knowing, feeling that okay, it's because they don't understand. Let me move on my life.
No, 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 no. I didn't understand why people perceived me differently. I
Mm,
I I always I always looked at the normal standard. I looked at my twin as the standard, and I'm like, why can't people treat me the way they are treating my twin? Why would my
yeah.
parents treat me like this? Why can't they treat me like this? And then when I discovered that, okay, they're saying you're different, so you're different, and then I shut down. I just
Okay.
went into my shell
Mm,
because it affected me. It affected my, how do I put it now? It gave me, I had complex, inferiority complex. I didn't have a lot of confidence. I saw the way people perceived me and it affected my thinking. And that was the
mm.
way I also perceived myself as okay, you're different, you're not normal. So do not think you're like them. Let them do their thing and just stay in your corner and hide in your shell. So that was my mentality while I was growing up.
Okay, so at what point did you, will I say, your mindset shifted to, like, because I know you're now more vocal.
Okay, this is a bit ridiculous. It might sound a bit ridiculous, but the turning point for me, I kept I kept avoiding anything sickle cell up till my 30s. Anybody that came to me and said you've got sickle cell and all that, I just denied or I just kept quiet and I walked off. But then
Wow.
one day something strange happened to me. I was mocked openly in a very open place. It was a very, very bad stigma, mockery, everything
Mm,
you can. It was a bitter pill to swallow. And I was like, okay, could it be this bad? Could this go on for this long? I don't care anymore. I think I reached my breaking point at that time and I stopped hiding. I just said,
Mm,
okay, I've got sickle cell. Who cares? That's my life, and I'm gonna live it to the fullest. I'm gonna tell everybody now I have a voice, and I'm gonna go and say whatever I have to say for people to stop this stigma. Because for me, I was strong enough to overcome it. But some people
mm,
are not strong to overcome. From there, some people have depression. From that, they develop other very funny side effects, but I didn't allow that to affect me. So that was the point. I just decided that no, I'm not going to go on with this inferiority complex, lack of confidence. I have to come out and be myself, be my own woman, and just move on with life. So until I was an adult before I started being confident.
okay, so at what point did you, because you're talking about somebody said something, I'm sure it wasn't immediate that you, or was it immediately that you just said, okay, no, I'm going to start talking about it, or did you have to go through
No,
several uh, a
no,
few
no, no.
processes to be able to start talking about it? And if you went through some processes, what are the basic processes you take for somebody who is like, because we always have that challenge of people saying, oh, I really want to talk about it, but I can't. I'm too scared. I don't want the stigmatization to increase and all that. So, what processes did you take, whether it's mindset changing or whatever, did you take to be able to get to this stage that you started talking about it?
Okay. When what it means to go back to your drawing board. Maybe let's say I was doing things in a specific way, but then I went back to my drawing board and I changed my mentality. I just thought to myself, I did not, I did not. Sickle cell is not a contagious disease. I was born
Yeah.
with it. And there was a reason behind that. I wasn't born by mistake, and I may sound a bit religious, but there is a place in the Bible that says, I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. That is, despite having sickle cell, I am beautifully and wonderfully made. So I just decided within me, okay, I was created with sickle cell. There's a purpose for it.
Mm.
So I don't care what
Yeah.
anybody says. I've determined and I've decided that I'm going to live my life despite whatever anybody says, and I'm moving forward. So that was the mentality. That was where I had the turning point when I decided that, okay, I was born with this. Not that I contacted it from someone. I was born with it and it wasn't by mistake. From that, that was the push for me. And I just kept going and going and going.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. For me, maybe because I was more closeted in my family and my community, um, I saw a lot more of that typical yeah pity thing. But I always say that even sometimes those so-called pity things, yeah, she can't do much kind of thing. It's also a form of stigma. You've already how would I call it? Categorized me in a particular type of
Yes,
box
yes, yes.
that
There's that
makes people think
restriction.
exactly, so that people don't have expectations. Maybe she has this, oh, she won't do this, she won't do that. um Growing up in, especially in you, by the time you got to university, I'm sure you faced some stigma. You said you didn't really talk about it much, but what were the experiences that made you become more and more aware? And what did you do, even though you didn't talk about it, but what did you do internally to build yourself up to be able to continue with it? Because people say the most
Horrible
uh
things.
exactly, and sometimes they don't really realize it. They think as I even sometimes I even prefer the ones that is outright. There's those subtle ones that
Yeah.
they say, and they think that they are helping you, but they don't realize they are
Almost like
they are
they're destroying
exactly
you.
So what, how do
Okay.
you manage such situations? Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give you two instances. And while I was in school and when I went to serve, while I was in school, there were two of us in the class that had
Mm,
sickle cell disorder, and there was this way our classmates were able to compare our attitudes. For me, anytime I had crisis, they all knew that, oh, this lady has got sickle cell. And there was this countenance of, please stay off. But then I
mm,
decided that, okay, you've limited me, but I'm going to show you that I'm going beyond the limit. Anytime I had crisis, nobody knew in class I had crisis. But my other colleague, anytime she had crisis, the whole building knew that yes, someone has crisis. The whole school department will be in pandemonium. There will be serious trouble. Everyone shouting, "Get her to the hospital!" Some will carry her. Whereas for me, nobody knew. I just kept quiet and I will exit myself from the classroom, get to my room, and if
mm.
it gets too much, I go home and to the hospital. So from there, they were able to see that, okay, there's more to this lady than the fragility or something like that. And one thing I discovered was stigmatization is what you allow it to be.
Yeah.
Is what you allow it to be. Okay, they have restricted you. Now show them what you can do. The second
Exactly.
example was when I went for service in Lagos. Then I can't
Mm,
remember, about 15 years. Okay, when I went for service, I at the camp we were supposed to go for endurance trek, and
yes.
everybody was like, "Oh, Femi, don't go. Please don't go. Don't stress yourself. You know you're fragile. You can't do much." And I said, "Oh, yes, I won't go. Thank you so much for your concern. I won't go." I made everyone believe I wasn't gonna go. And then when it was time to leave, everyone just saw me on the ground, on the parade ground, ready to go for the endurance trek. And everyone was like, we told you not to come. What are you doing here? Please. And I responded, thank you for your concern, but please, this is my decision to take, okay? And so I went for the endurance trek. I trekked. Even some people that didn't have sickle cell collapsed on the way. I didn't collapse.
Yes.
I did the endurance trek. I came back, no crisis, nothing. I just took water. And from there, I could see that the way they were treating me initially, it changed.
Yeah.
And there was a certain respect that, okay, it seems this person is different. So those were two very, very two instances I can say I can remember.
Hmm. Yeah, which brings me to there's an issue that we've been talking about in the way the narration of sickle cell is. There are those who believe, one side of it believe, oh, show all the challenges you go through, put it out there, all the issues, the bad things, the pain, the other, all that. And there's the extreme side that says, don't even show any part of that. Just show that you're living positive and all that stuff. Now, the challenge with that is that there's no balance, and you find people have different perception of what sickle cell is. From the negative side, when you keep on putting all that woe is me part, they believe that sickle cell is it's a terrible thing. It's the worst thing to ever have. Yes, it has its challenges, but they think that's where you see people stigmatizing, they cannot amount to much because they've seen that negative part. Then the positive side, they feel that maybe this person, there's nothing to it. Why are they making such a big deal about sickle cell? Whereas I always say that everybody's experience with sickle cell is different, and basically it all boils down to your support system and your financial capabilities.
Yeah.
That's it. So how do you what's how do you think people should relate when telling their stories? Because it's what people see that what people stigmatize. Like you just said, when you are showing them a greater part of who you are, and it's not just all about the pain and everything, compared to that lady who was just who showed demonstration of screaming and everything. How do you think people can balance this thing so that you can be able to also change perception of people of what sickle cell is?
Okay. Like I said earlier, stigmatization is what you allow it to be.
Mm,
And stigmatization spans from society, relationship, career, church, spiritual, name it. So it is what you make it to be. If people say you are Abiku and you behave like Abiku, sure, you are giving them every reason to say, okay, oh, she's a biku, yeah. And then you cannot blame them for stigmatizing you because you are acting according to the stigma. Okay, that apart, let's take for instance, I'm dating someone who has no knowledge about sickle cell, and he's
mm,
having his first experience of sickle cell with me for the first time. I can't just barge on him and tell him, yeah, I've got sickle cell, and expect him to wrap his arms around me and say, oh, I love you. No, 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 it's not possible. You do, it's a gradual process.
yeah.
It's a gradual process. It's just like when you want to take a hot bath, you will not pour extremely hot water on your body. You have to mix it with cold water to make it adaptable to your body system. So
Mm,
when you want to tell people about sickle cell, considering the mentality, you have to take it in such a way that it won't be too harsh because the way people absorb things differ. I may be
mm,
matured enough to absorb things in a very good way, and some people are so negative minded. The way you say it, they just pick it up and spread it in a very, very bad way. So deal with it according to the personality. Deal
mm,
with it according to the personality. If you're talking to your doctor about sickle cell, oh, sure, you don't need to be extremely cautious. But somebody who has no knowledge, who has got this belief that okay, they are horrible kids, kids that have come to torment their parents, you have to take it slow. You have to show them that okay, I'm a human being. I've got positive tendencies, and I'm not the negative person you think I am. So it depends on the person and his ability to absorb the knowledge you are passing across.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And you are talking about career and relationship and all that stigma. And I know some people tend to say, okay, there's stigmatization in a workplace. But I've learned something. Like you said, it's how you portray yourself. But I had a friend who didn't tell anybody in his office that he had sickle cell. And until one day, of course, he will have his on and off days of not going
Yeah.
to work. But people just thought, okay, generally not well. But there was one day that he had beyond the normal health issue. He stayed longer, and when he came out, he had to tell people that he had sickle cell. But
Mhm.
unfortunately for him, perceptions changed. It was now the person has sickle cell. They dropped what the workload became almost next to nothing.
That could be so annoying. Oh God, that could be so annoying. Like,
They started treating him differently, basically.
yeah,
I was talking to one of my staff today, and he was saying there was this incident of this guy in Big Brother, and somebody was complaining about how people's perception once they learned it, they started. He said it's called reaching. I've never had the term before. Don't worry, I'm old school. But where they treat you different, like an A, yeah, hey, no wonder that. So how do we get people to understand that even though we have it, it doesn't change us from who we are and our
mm,
capabilities. What we
yeah,
are, what we were doing before, we're still able to do. Who we are
to
before you knew us that we had sickle cell.
yeah,
So how can we? Because it can be really frustrating for some people
Yes, it
when
can be.
yeah, everything is all well and good, and then you suddenly your whole
It just
perception
change the
changes
whole
that,
thing.
oh, you.
Okay. Number one, the thing is, okay, let me give an instance. The last place I worked before I traveled, I got in as a normal staff, like a junior staff rather. And I had, I was always having crisis. And anytime I had crisis, I will just, I'll disappear. The
Mm,
only person that had an idea that, okay, this lady's in crisis was my boss. So I will just disappear, and maybe a week later or 2 weeks, I'll be back in the office.
mm,
And then my colleagues will start screaming, you know, those names they call when they know, oh, she's back again. They'll start screaming, blah, 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 blah. I didn't bother. I just kept doing my work, doing my thing. At the end of the day, I rose to a managerial level and I now became their boss, the people that were mocking me. So in
mm,
that situation, if the guy, if people discover that, okay, this person now has sickle cell, let's treat him like an egg is gonna break, still
mm-hmm,
behave normal, have your usual behavior, let nothing change. You will change their perception if you also change. Let's say before they you were in charge of the company account, and then some very tedious responsibilities. And now, because you feel they know you've got sickle cell, you're now relaxed. Of course,
mm,
they will also say, oh, he can't do it and that. But if you continue with what you're doing, no changes, or even do more, oh my God, their attitude will change. And sometimes they might even call you and say, oh, I've never seen your type before. So you've got sickle
mm.
cell and you can be this strong. Is that possible? Oh, my opinion is changed. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So stigma is, I know stigma, as I said, stigma in the beginning of the show, I said stigma exists. But do you think it is a cultural thing or an individual thing in the sense that um can it be easily corrected?
Well, it's both. It's cultural, it's individual. And can it be corrected in the individual? Yes. Cultural, it will take a while.
Hmm.
It will take a while. And okay, let me give an instance. Like I said earlier, stigma spans from career, relationships, spiritual, and all that. Okay, if we're gonna correct stigma from the career aspect of it, what can we do to correct that? Number one, we change the mentality of people. How? In every workplace, let there be an allowance for people living with sickle cell disorder. Okay, if you have like 100 employees, you can employ two of them that have sickle cell disorder and make provisions for them that even when they fall sick, it's not as if you're gonna fire them or you deduct from their salaries and say, okay, you were not at work anyway. After all, you fall sick all the time. Please, we're deducting from your salary. No, you don't do that. You treat them like normal people. Just make allowance for that. That in the career sector. Now in the spiritual, it starts from the church. What are the spiritual channels? The church, the mosque, and then the traditional people. It starts from there. The church, I don't know about the traditional and I don't know about the Islamic ones because I'm not into that, but I know about the church. In the church,
Hmm.
how can you stop stigma in the church? Number one, go to your pastor. And the first thing is remove this thing called faith. There's faith, there's reality.
My pastor, used to say there's faith and there's stupidity.
There's faith, there's reality. Stop pushing people beyond their faith. If their faith cannot tell them to get married to a carrier, please leave them alone because when they get the consequences of your definition of faith. You want to be there with them.
Mm.
So number one, we must stop that. Number two, if it is only someone with sickle cell disorder that can handle a service group in the church, please allow them.
Yeah.
It starts from little things, allocating little things to all these people, allowing them to be themselves as well. Don't tag them with, oh, I'm scared. Who knows what's gonna happen to her now if we give her this responsibility. You understand what I'm saying? So it starts from those little things. And peradventure, okay, she gets sick while while handling the responsibility given to her. Make room for allowances.
Yeah.
There should be a backup plan. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. After all, everybody has their own low moments as well.
Yeah, exactly. And when it comes to things like you said, church, really, I also think the faith things also affects those people with sickle cell. I remember I was in church one day and hadn't been in church for a while, and the person asked, somebody asked me that, you have not been in church. What's happening? I said, I have sickle cell. I said, God forbid, you don't have sickle cell. I don't where the faith thing came on. No, don't say that. And I was looking at this person, and I said, the reality is that I have sickle cell. Because I'm saying doesn't mean I don't have faith that I will not be able to walk in health, that but I do have it, and denying it is not going to help me. So how
It's
do you,
not.
because another thing about society, because you feel that you're saying you have this, they
Yeah,
feel that you don't have enough faith.
it's wrong.
I won't mention a particular church. Even when I said it, they were like, no, you should go for deliverance, the
Yes,
typical
and
thing I
cast
see.
out
And
the demon called sickle cell,
exactly, you
mind
know
cast. Yeah, I
you know
I understand.
So it can be kind of a challenge trying to explain to people who have that kind of mindset that this is what sickle cell is. So coming from somebody who has sickle cell, you're trying to tell this person ABC. What do you think can be done regarding that?
Okay. Like I said, just try and flow with the person individually. Some are patient enough to listen to you. Some
Mm,
always hide under faith as an excuse. Meanwhile, it actually is not faith, it's just a mirage
mm,
people like to create for themselves that no, this can be, it cannot be. And I leave it at that, it cannot be. Okay, what if it is? In the Bible, there was a place where somebody was praying again and again and again for something to go.
good
And God
too.
told him, my grace is sufficient for you. And in your
Your strength,
infirmity,
yes, made
yes,
perfect in my
you will,
weakness.
most pastors will never tell you find strength in your infirmity, but they will tell you my grace is sufficient for you. Do you
Mm,
understand what I'm saying? We must
yeah.
learn to align everything together. It's not about just picking one short part of the Bible, align it, and let's see how it can work. Do you
Mm,
understand what I'm saying? So if you're going to be talking to one person as an individual, I may be a subtle person, patient enough to listen when you tell me about sickle cell. What if you meet somebody that's impatient and cannot just cope with, oh, you can't be sick, you can't have sickle cell, it's not possible. My advice, when you see that person is becoming impossible, then leave him alone and go your way before he or she offends you,
mm,
before you
yeah.
get offended by the person's behavioral pattern. I think that's the best way to go about it. Just live your
Yeah.
life.
They live your life. Yeah. If you have any questions or comments, or you want to contribute, please post your questions on the comment box. And we're glad to take it. So we're talking about, I was saying, break free, run wild. Now we have two extremes of people living with sickle cell. You have those who believe, "Ah, the woman said I want to die, so let me live my life. Stigma or no stigma, I'll do whatever I like, I do whatever." But there are those who are, should I call it a bit more cautious, uh, to be able to know how to manage themselves in time to live their life. Um, Sometimes both have their own negatives, pros and cons. But how would you say, when with somebody's perception of themselves living with sickle cell, seeing, like you said that the other day, that somebody said terrible things, it could have gone the other way around. You could have either gone into hiding, into depression, and all that, or you could have all either said, okay, get away with this life. I'm doing to. I'm going to drink. I'm going to smoke. I'm going to party. I'm going to do all the things that you will not. Just let me die. If I'm going to die, I will die. At least I died out of whatever I like doing. So how would I call it, make a contribution to those sort of people who do the opposite extreme? Or we've talked more about those who likely go into depression, shut out, and all that, but there are those who just run wild, break free. I had a auntie who is complaining of somebody who was in UK, and that the boy is a young man. He did everything, but even that he even got arrested in UK so many times that he had to send him back to Nigeria. So how would you encourage those people who feel, maybe my life is not worth anything? They've already said it. You know.
Hello,
Hello. Yes, I can hear you. Did you hear me?
can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You've frozen a bit, but I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yes, I can. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So
Okay.
did you hear the question?
Um, I did. I heard in bits. I'll try to answer as best as I can. Um, Number one thing, I think every winning warrior should do: never take solace in the negative.
Mm,
Never take solace in the negative. Yeah, you want to break free, run wild, and then you take solace in negative habits, smoking, weeding, and blah, alcoholism, and all that. Uh, and so just ask yourself, what's the end result? What is it gonna add to you? You take solace in smoking, you take solace in alcoholism, you take solace in weed. What's the end result? What's the purpose for it? I've come to realize in life that sometimes good things happen, bad things happen too, but there's a purpose for both things
yeah,
happening. It could be the bad thing happened to you to teach you a lesson or to open another door for you. But then you now decide to take solace in something, a negative habit. That will becloud you. That will not make you, it's like you knowingly getting yourself blind to things
exactly.
that you're supposed to do. So you shouldn't take solace in the negative. No, 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 no. Don't do that. Sickle cell has it's a very funny disorder. Why would I say that? The way it reflects in me is different from the way it will reflect in someone else.
Yeah.
For example, I have the tendency, I'm talking from a personal perspective, of attracting more stigma from other people than those with the bulky stature. Because the
Yeah.
moment most people see me, oh, she's got sickle cell.
Yeah.
So, how are you? Are you okay? Blah, 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 and blah. And I'm like, oh God, not again. Oh God, not again. Oh, please. Or they want to take it far and then they lay hands on me and begin to cast and bind. And while binding and casting me, they push me, I fall down, I end up in the hospital. Should that now make me take alcohol and I start drinking? No, 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 no. That's childish. That's immature. For everything that happens, there's a purpose and there's a reason for it. But don't take solace in negative habits. It's not the best way to go. Just sit down, calm down, and then see what's the best way to handle this situation. What can I do? What can I do that can make this thing not repeat itself? I do a lot of analytic thinking. I talk to myself a lot. I I try and analyze situations and I ask what did I do wrong? What brought about this? How can I do it such that next time it wouldn't happen again? And I feel that is what most of us should do. Instead of taking solace in, okay, I've got sickle cell, I'm gonna be drinking and smoking and weed. No, 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 it's not the best.
Yeah. Um, Sam says people respond to situations based on what they are exposed to. Thanks to you, ladies, what can be spread and people will get educated. Yeah, I agree. I think it's also like
Yeah,
we're talking about stigma. It's not just cultural, but it's also environmental. Because sometimes I realize the way you you react to certain things depend on who or the environment around you and how you were brought up. So thank you. He also says having a supportive group of people in be it family or friends is key for anyone in order to avoid depression, frustration,
yeah,
or even bad habits. We all have a role to play so as to help each other. Together we can go a long way. Thank you very
yeah.
much, Sam. I very much agree with your
That makes
comments.
perfect sense. And yeah, to add to what he said, to add to that comment, you know, our reflexes, it differs. Our
Mm,
characters differs. I may be an extrovert, you might be an introvert. An extrovert will love being around people. So when they're hurt, they might love being around people to calm down. Meanwhile,
mm,
an introvert will love to be by themselves and
yeah.
shut down and all of that. So for the extroverts who've got sickle cell disease, okay, try be around them, carry them along, show them love, try make them feel they're not alone. You've got their back and make life better for them. For the
Mm,
introvert, study them well. Maybe they need time alone to think it through, analyze situations, correct themselves, and then you can see how you can connect with them to let them know that they're not alone in their fight. I think that will make a lot of meaning to them.
okay. Now we found situations where, as I said, people stigmatize against people with sickle cell, but you have situations where family members also do that to the point that they are abused, they are neglected. So when it comes to situations legally now to reduce stigma, do you think it should be more of punishment or advocacy? Which do you think will help?
Punishment? No way. I
Well, there are some
advocate.
people who feel that that is the solution. That once they get some punishment, then they will stop doing what they are doing.
Uh, it's a free world. You can't. It's not everything you enforce and enforce and enforce and no, 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 no. I don't believe that. I don't believe it should be legal. Maybe except for situations where it becomes extremely detrimental to
Yes, yes.
the person in
Mm,
question. But in
mm,
most cases, it should be more of advocacy instead of legal, instead of taking it to the level of legal things. No, no, no. I don't believe in that. I don't. For me,
okay.
my own personal perspective.
Yeah, but well, you can understandably there when it comes to sickle cell, I've learned something through this journey is that there are a lot of emotions involved in making certain decisions.
Yeah.
And individual emotions sometimes affects decisions that we feel should be made. Case in point, the STD bill that says if you give birth, they will have no responsibility for the child with sickle cell and all that. And I know these are generally coming from personal experience, but trying to, like you say, trying to put legal issues sometimes does not even help. I was saying to somebody that there are so many legal or punishments. Has it ever stopped anybody from still doing it? There's punishment to armed robbery, but it still goes on. So
Yeah.
it still goes on. People will find a way of doing it, and
Yes, yes,
they
yes,
even go
yes.
to a praying house and pray to God that they don't get caught.
Just go a
So
step further above the law. That's it.
yes, yes. So thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you guys for joining us on the show. For everybody who was able to watch, you can always catch the replay later and share to a friend. The most important thing is to have empathy to somebody with sickle cell. We don't want the
Yeah,
sympathy because sympathy doesn't get you anywhere. But the
it
empathy
doesn't.
to understand and say that I know what you're going through, but I'm there to support you and listen to
Yeah,
you all the time. So,
yeah.
Femi, would you have any last words to people out there concerning
Okay,
stigmatization and just to encourage people with sickle cell?
okay. And from the perspective of stigmatization for the men and the women who are scared to go into relationships with people living with sickle cell disorder, why not have knowledge of it before getting so scared like it's a death sentence?
Mm,
Have more knowledge of it and go ahead. And then for the societal stigma, I think you should know the person. Don't judge by the placard. Get to know individually. It's better that way. And for people living with sickle cell disorder, look at my host here, my big aunt. She's been very exemplary. She's been very exemplary and she's scaled through it all. She's scaled through it and she's still scaling and scaling and scaling. And I
nice.
think you can make an example out of her. You can make a very good example out of her, no matter what, no matter how hard it is. Just determine in your heart that you're gonna go through this. You're gonna go through it, and that's all you need. Just keep going. No boundaries, no limitation. Sickle cell is not the end of the world.
Exactly, exactly. You have sickle cell, but sickle cell does not have you. Thank
No,
you
it
so much
doesn't.
again for coming on the show.
You're
Have a
welcome.
lovely, lovely rest of the week. God bless you, and pray that God will continue to help your nonprofit to reach more people.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you
then.
so much,
Thank
ma'am.
you. And this has been the production of Sickle Cell Advocacy and Management Initiative, SAMI. We ask you to continue join us on our social media handles and visit our website on www.sicklecelladvocacy.org. Read our blogs and share your support to us in all our projects. And we're glad to have you ask questions and we'll glad to be able to answer it. So, till next week, where we start a new series in the month of October, have a lovely day.